Hey, what's going on? This is Cole Patterson with another advanced tutorial on Illustrator. Uh, Again, I will continually apologize for my under the weather demeanor. My voice has not been getting better throughout my making of these, but despite that, I'm still really excited to get into this tutorial. We'll be going over a handful of key effects, and the first of which is going to be our drop shadow. Now, before we get into our effects, I want to go and look at this one particular window appearance. It can be found up here. I keep mine here, and it keeps track of all of the effects that are placed on a given item. I had one placed on it and I deleted it so that I can redo it here now, the drop shadow. Now the drop shadow I have is set to multiply, 75% opacity. Opacity is fairly straightforward. The mode is the same as it would be in Photoshop or otherwise. Now the offset is interesting because that determines the placement of your drop shadow. The blur, when you set that to 0, it becomes a nice hard shape. It's just a simple Gaussian blur effect applied. We will get to that in just a second. Let's look at Gaussian blur right quick. We are going to make a shape, just a nice simple black, and go to our effects and go to blur. Now we're going to just put a Gaussian blur on of about that much, and when we zoom in, we'll see that it is no longer a hard shape. I'm going to undo that, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this very complex shape, right, this complex shape right here, and I'm going to go to stylize and hit feather. Now all of these work about the same way. The feather effect just gets rid of the outermost parts. So when I selected the fill of this expanded shape, you'll see that it began to dissipate towards the edges and remain at its full solidity at the center. Now that didn't look very good. There were places for it. It's particularly good for photos depending on what you're doing. We will keep that at that and then look at the real meat and potatoes, the real bread and butter of the effects that we'll be looking at today, which is transform within the distort and transform part of effects. We'll go ahead and apply this. Forgot to select my banana. We'll take this nice banana that I've made in the previous tutorial and transform it. And what we're going to do is going to require just a little bit of math. We're going to go here and we're going to displace this by about a 3/8 of an inch in both directions, and we're going to offset its angle by about 20 degrees. Now, if we make one copy of this, then it's going to give us a total of 2 bananas. So if we take 360 degrees and subtract the original copy, which is about 20 degrees worth of a circle, we can deduce that there would be 340 divided by 20, about 17 copies needed to make a full circle worth of the pattern. And with that, we can make a nice simple little wreath, like so. My bad. Oh, my bad again. Oh, well, shoot. Not my day today. There we go. What we're going to do now, though, is expand on that same idea by doing a slightly different transformation of the same concept. We're going to rotate this whole effect by 10 degrees. Oops. Select it with the right tool. And we're going to go and select transform, and we're going to set this to 10 degrees. And then what we're going to do is downshift the scale in both dimensions by about 20% and make 5 copies of it. And let's see what that looks like. Now we have a real banana wreath. This is one of the dumber things I've ever made, but it looks legitimately pretty good for what it is. Now let's get this banana wreath out of here, because there's something a little more interesting that we can do with just one extra layer and taking the time to go in and make sure that no effects are set to it at the moment. We can go to our brush tool and select a nice silky red like this, and we can make okay. And after a bit of trial and error, I figured out what I was missing. I made a fairly rookie mistake, but with that being the case, I think we've now got it and we can move forward. So let me make something that looks nice that we can work with. This is fine. We will select it and we can go here, and this gives us just another pull bar for our effects, the same as if we were to go to the top of the page. And we are going to reflect and put 1 copy and cancel that actually, because we want to make sure that it is here on the whole layer by clicking here. Go to transform and try that again. And let's see, how does this look? A little more, a little more. That's about right. That's about where I want it. Now, if we were to just deselect right here and then start drawing, it would work perfectly fine. So that is what we will do. Now, if you go beyond the bounds of your original line, it will move the composition to fit in the now most outermost or innermost part of the design. But we can go ahead and make something strange and wonderful that doesn't really have any form to it, but despite that, still looks just inexplicably very aesthetically pleasing. And that's about all that there is to this style of design. And look, we made a cow. I'm gonna choose to call this a cow. Alright, well, those are a few of the key effects, simple ones being drop shadow, feather, Gaussian blur, and then the distort and transforms transform tool, which has a plethora of uses. I hope you've learned something, and until next time.